We now call the April 26, 2023 regular Historic Preservation Commission meeting to order. This meeting has been posted in accordance with Nevada open meeting law. All members, with the exception of Linda Graham, are present. We have a quorum. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item is the initial comment period. Public comment during this period of the meeting must be limited to matters on the agenda for action. Each person has up to 5 minutes to speak on a specific item. The public may call 702-589-9629 to provide comment. Anyone in the audience want to come forward? No? Okay. Seeing that there are no comments from the audience or from folks calling in, we'll move on to agenda item number 1, approval of the minutes of the March 22nd, 2023 meeting.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as printed.
Do I have a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved unanimously. Agenda item number 2. For possible action, a public hearing on a certificate of appropriateness application for replacement carport canopies at 401 California Avenue pursuant to section 11-27-5.c.3 of the City Code.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you can see from the information in your packet, no changes are proposed to the City Hall building. This proposal is to replace the existing carports in the northwest parking lot. And you've got plans in your packet, and what's up on the screen right now is the site plan, and the areas highlighted in yellow are the new carport locations, which are similar to the locations where the current ones are. More parking is being provided in that area, so everything's a little bit shifted. If Holly will go to the next slide, you'll see that the proposed carports have been designed to follow the design theme of City Hall with tile roofs, which will actually screen the trusses used to support the solar panels on top of the roofs. The panels themselves won't be visible from the street because they'll basically be flat and facing upwards. And the support posts will have a brick facing on them. And if Holly will go to the next slide, it's just one of the photos in the packet that reference, what the current metal carports look like now. The only difference really of note is that the new carports will be higher so that they can shelter all sorts of vehicles and trucks that are used during our many special events throughout the season. So those will be able to accommodate them. And actually, when I was gathering photos for this, the top photo there shows one view with City Hall in the background. And actually, with the taller carport, from certain views, you'll actually see more of City Hall from certain angles because the carports will actually be taller and with more clearance underneath and without those overhangs. The city's Historic Preservation Officer, Courtney Mooney, has reviewed this proposal and has indicated that it complies with the applicable standards, of the Secretary of the Interior. And her comments are also included in the packet. And then in addition, tonight, we have present staff from our Public Works Department, being the Public Works Director and City Engineer, should you have any particular questions about the design of the carports. After your question and answer, you would then open up the public hearing to see if there's any comments for that. Upon closing the public hearing, you would deliberate as to whether or not you wish to approve the certificate of appropriateness for these replacement carports. And there's draft motion options for you in the staff report in the packet.
Does anybody have want to start off with any, so no deliberation now, just questions to staff or,
Oh, sure,
okay,
yeah.
You want me to start?
go for it, Goose.
Come on. Well, I want to be careful because I know that I'm probably going to sound negative about this because I have in my mind, serious concerns about this issue. But the issue is not with the feature. The issue is with whether or not the Historic Preservation Commission should be looking at this. Because I don't have a clear understanding of why we're even looking. And I'll start with the fact that NOAA requires commission review of all city-owned historic properties, okay? Well, this thing's not historic. It's not even a building. So if you look at 1127.5 -C-3-8 whatever, it says the same thing. Commission review pursuant to the Certificate of Appropriateness Approval Matrix, A, proposed work to all city-owned historic properties, okay? So if we go to the matrix, there's a little X in our box. We're looking at non-contributing. These are the Certificate of Appropriateness Approval Matrix. Non-contributing, administrative, or commission. So my understanding is city staff evaluates this and then they make a decision as to who should evaluate this issue. And we have a little box in the commission for construction new. And this little box has an X. I notice under administrative, there's no little box no little X in the box. So for some reason, there doesn't appear to be any requirement for administrative review for the issuance of a certificate of appropriateness. Yet, we have a multi-page report from our historic preservation officer, so the administrative did review it. So why don't we have a little X there? I don't understand why. And then beyond that, up above here, there's a row for accessory buildings and structures viewed from the street. Well, this is obviously an accessory building or structure. But I look over here is non-contributing. I look over here under commission review and there's no little X there. So if we don't have a little, but there is a little X there for administrative review. So my whole point is, why is the Historic Preservation Commission reviewing this? Because Mooney, our Historic Preservation Officer, has already done it. There are no guidelines that deal with this structure, and she says that very explicitly. She does evaluated relative to compliance with the Secretary of Interior standards, which, by the way, I would disagree with part of her, part of what she says, because she states that in evaluation of SOI compliance, the proposed, and she says, the proposed new construction will not result in the removal of historic materials, that's true, or alter features and spaces that characterize the City Hall property, okay? Well, I don't know what constitutes the City Hall property, but this new feature, this new structure is certainly going to impact the view of the property as I would envision it. It's within that 300-foot circle. She goes on over here to say that the proposed new construction is compatible. Now, this is the SOI standards, okay? The standard is new additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction shall not destroy historic material that characterize the property. The new work will be differentiated from the old, blah, blah, and shall be compatible with the massing size, okay? And then she says, the proposed new construction will not destroy historic materials that characterize the City Hall building, site, or district, okay? Well, I'm sorry, but this new structure certainly isn't, in my mind, compatible with the size, scale, or massing of what's being replaced. So I would argue that I'm not sure that it really complies, although I always lose an argument with Courtney, so I wouldn't press it. But my bottom line is, again, back to it, I don't know why we are charged with looking at this, because we have no guidelines. We've already been told by Northwind that it complies with Secretary of Interior standards. I don't see any way that I can vote on this thing, because I don't believe we should be even looking at it. So anyway, that's my comment, so.
Well,
Any questions?
Hold on, I will.
Appreciate your thoughts on the whole thing, but I didn't have any questions for staff. I was okay with, I think it looks great. I didn't have any problem with it, so I really don't have much more to add. Curious what the others think.
Well, the only questions I would have would really not apply to historic preservation. I mean, we're looking at a structure, and it's been presented well in a packet and pictures, so we got a pretty good idea what what's being proposed. So, I really don't have any particular questions.
Okay, thanks. I, too, am confused by who's responsible for reviewing this, because the matrix is confusing in regards to new construction and accessory buildings, because it's both. And obviously non-contributing. Historic preservation reviews one, the historic preservation officer reviews the other, so I don't know what to do about that. I'm glad, though, that and also there's no specific guidelines, city guidelines, although Courtney did go to the Secretary of Interior standards, and I'm glad she discussed how it would, barely discussed how it would impact the historic district. It doesn't, I don't think, have a direct effect on the City Hall, and therefore we're not making a decision on what's happening to the City Hall. It's what's happening to the historic district because of these two additional structures. So her comment of that it does meet the Secretary of Interior standards and that the proposed construction is compatible with the massing size, scale, and architectural scale and features that protect the historic integrity of the property and its environment. I guess I would have asked her, like, how does she support that? And I don't know if she had discussions with you as far as something that large and that massive in a site that never is historically supposed to have shade structures. How is it that this is compatible? So aside from that, though, regarding the design and the size, I guess one of my questions is, why is it being built with this fake roof and these fake pillars, as opposed to using what the other shade structure is over here, which is pretty plain and simple and, in my opinion, low profile, as opposed to adding these weird fake mick historic features.
So, Chairwoman Davenport, if you'd like, what I can do is try to unpack all the comments and questions by the commission. First off, Ms. Mooney is available by phone, and so I can call her right now so you can talk to her about her assessment. Secondly, in terms of why the commission is reviewing this, is because the ordinance specifically says that for city-owned properties, those improvements require review by the commission.
Historic properties.
Yeah. Yes, and the shade structures are part of the city hall property. They're not a separate property. Certainly, this would be different than if it was a separate lot not tied to the city hall. And then third, obviously with every review, we have Northwind review it first. So if it's an administrative review, it would stop with her review and her assessment. But if it requires coming to the commission, we always have her review first so that you can have her insight into how it meets the Secretary of Interior standards and any applicable design guidelines. So if you'd like, I can call her right now so you can ask her further questions about her assessment. And then certainly we can have the city engineer, Jim Keene, respond to the material question.
So can you address the problem with the matrix? Or did you, I guess, jump to the conclusion that the matrix is confusing, so we'll have you both, the admin and the Historic Preservation Commission?
No, there's an instance where it talks about new structures and the applicability of when that applies. So I think that's where some of the confusion is coming from. Certainly, staff carefully evaluated both the ordinance and the matrix and came to the conclusion this required review by the commission based on the items I had mentioned before. And certainly, it's also the commission and getting your input is important in something that is a part of a property that has a historically significant structure, which is the city hall. So, commission discretion. If you have any questions for Ms. Mooney, I can call her.
I guess I would like to have a conversation with her about that. But I have a question, I think, for Susan or you, Michael, and that was, why wasn't the accessory building information sheet used, or has that been replaced by the certificate of appropriateness form?
That form was designed, and all the existing accessory building standards are strictly for the residential part of the historic district and doesn't apply to commercial or government properties. So that's why that form wouldn't apply, because on the form itself, it refers to, if this is for a garage, is it, does it have access to the alley instead of the street, and does it match the house? I mean, that's everything about those guidelines was written for the residential portion of the district.
Sorry, not the guidelines, but there's a form called the accessory building information sheet.
And that is attached That is attached to the residential guidelines. That is strict,
Okay.
all those guidelines, they're based on, does the new structure, match the house? Is it, does it have similar materials to the house? It was designed solely for the residential area.
Thank you. So could we,
Yes.
I'm just gonna kind of throw it out here, just, the only thing that really bugs me about it is that, the height of the thing. I think every time I see something like that, I think I'm driving into a truck stop, to get my semi loaded up with fuel. I mean, it's just when you got something that high, and I'm not sure how that'll fit in with the, overall look of,
Hi, you've reached Courtney at 702.
how that'll fit in with the overall look of, with the parks and stuff. All of a sudden, right out here in the middle, we've got this great big huge canopies for a fuel depot. I mean, it's, I know sure it meets all height restrictions in the building building codes and all that stuff. I'm not aware of that, but it just the appearance of it is what concerns me. It just, and I don't, that really doesn't fall under, we don't have any guidelines. I mean, it really doesn't fall under. It's just kind of a personal observation. It just, I'm not sure how that'll fit in with the whole area. So that's kind of the.
So, we have Courtney on the line, and then we can also have Public Works staff respond to the other questions regarding height and materials. Which would you want to address first?
I'll just ask Courtney, since she's right there. Hey, Courtney, this is Blair. Can she hear
Hello.
me? How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Hello, Commission. Good evening.
Hello, Courtney.
So we are addressing the shade structures, and I had a question regarding your interpretation of number 9 of the Secretary of Interior standards regarding new additions, and it's a two-part question. And the first part of the question is fine, whether the new addition will not destroy historic material and that characterize the property. But the second part, the proposed new regarding the new work shall be differentiated from the old and is compatible in massing, size, scale, and architectural features that protect the integrity of the property. And when I say property, I mean the historic district, because it's not a direct effect on the city hall. And I was just wondering your opinion about the use of the tile roof and the tiled or bricked posts as trying to mimic or duplicate features of the city hall. To me, that is, I don't know, it just doesn't seem appropriate.
So, Courtney Mooney, for the record, I was on the fence about that at first, but after giving it some careful consideration, I think that there really is, because of the scale of the parking structure, solar covered parking, there is really not going to be any confusion as to whether or not they are old due to their proportions. I mean, they're pretty tall. I also think that the hipped roof with tile or without tile is really a good solution, because you're not going to be able to see the structure of the that's holding up the solar panels, and the hipped shape of it, I think, will also help, because when you're standing underneath them, as opposed to, let's say, like a more like a mansard roof or a parapet wall or something that's kind of more 90 degrees. I think this will help that roof kind of disappear when you're standing underneath it. So after talking to staff about it, I decided that this was a good approach. I think it is compatible with the architecture of the building, but it's not going to be confused for being historic. And it's also reversible. So there is that. And yeah, that was my feeling on it.
Okay. Thank you for that. And
Sure.
therefore, that's why it meets the Secretary of Interior standards. Or that one.
Yes, and it's not destroying any historic materials as that area is already developed. And there are already two structures there. And I know they're smaller, but they're not necessarily compatible, I think, with the historic district, stylistically.
Okay, thank you.
Right, we could, should we have Jim or Jamie? All right.
Hello, Jamie Carreri, Public Works Director. To kind of talk about what you were interested in. So the height, it's actually 2 feet higher than what's currently there underneath. And then we have another 4 feet. So at the top, we're 14 feet, right? 10 feet, right. 18 feet. So what we're actually doing is we're opening up the landscape more. So what you see there right now is at eye level, you can't see past them, right? It's really a big obstruction. This brings it up to a higher level. The main purpose for doing that was because during our events, these shade structures get hit quite a bit. So we wanted to try to accommodate to make it more like a multi-use during events out here. So not only is it going to be a multi-use, but it's also going to clear more of the vision for anybody walking through. You're going to see right through to the landscape beyond it. So I hope that answers that.
No, I understand why you want to go up with it and stuff, and
Sure.
I understand. I'm just thinking, more from a distance, you're going to see these really tall things, Right
Right.
now, the low ones kind of almost disappear. And,
Right.
It's just, in my mind, I'm thinking, what they're going to look like as you're driving through town, going, around,
Sure.
pulling in and out of City Hall or just roads around it. I mean, I'm sure they'll look fine, as a structure. I'm
Right.
just kind of how does that structure kind of fit into the overall scheme of the area?
Sure.
So
Okay,
that's kind of where my thoughts were at. So
Sure.
thank you for your answers.
fair enough, sure. Any other questions?
I had a question about the roof material. Will it be the same Spanish barrel style, or it will?
No. Oh, it will? I'm gonna let Jim talk on that one. Thank you.
Hi, Jim Keene, the city engineer. Yes, the plan is for them to be similar to what's been put on City Hall. So,
Same dimensions?
we're not that far along yet. That will come when the contractor actually proposes something to us. We'll call out the same tile we used when we re-roofed City Hall. But then the actual one will be whatever the contractor proposes and we approve at that time, so.
And then for the columns, are you trying to replicate what's on City Hall?
I wouldn't say replicate, but complement. How's that? We can't replicate it. Kind of like the restroom over here in the park that we did. We have that brick veneer on there, and it's called a Boulder City Blend. It was the closest they could get to make it complement City Hall. So it's the same. We're going to try and go with the same theory there.
Does that restroom have the caps too?
The caps.
The caps at the top of the column? The decorative cap to match City
don't-
Hall loggia
I
columns?
don't remember, to tell you the truth, if the restroom has it or not.
Okay.
Go look, it's right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
oh, yeah, I can run out if you.
that's all right. I'm just curious how huge those columns are. Is that, I mean, are you going to use the standard brick size or?
Yeah, they'll be the standard brick size. The columns will actually end up being rectangular because of what we needed for the structure. And then the veneer will go on the outside of that. But yeah, it'll be typical brick size. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Yeah, that doesn't fit it. Okay, thank you.
You
That's
bet.
all I had. I guess now we open it up for public comment.
Formally open up the public hearing.
I formally open up the public hearing. Is that it? I
Well,
mean, okay, yeah. So the public may call 702-589-9629 to provide comment on this project. And the project is replacement carport canopies at 401 California Avenue.
Courtney, I'm going to hang
Yes?
up now in case somebody else was trying to call in.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right. Seeing that no one has called in, or were there any comments written in, or, no, of course not.
No, it's appropriate to ask that, and no comments were submitted, so you
Okay.
can close the public hearing.
So public comment is closed on this. Next step is to vote on the outcome or the action. What is our action? Action is either to approve, deny. I thought there was a third one,
There is a third one, you can postpone.
or postpone it, although it doesn't say that here. Is that correct?
Well, I didn't provide language for if you wish to make a motion to postpone, but it is listed under requested action to either approve, postpone, or deny the request.
Okay.
We could table it if we had more questions, need to get it more answers or something, it could be tabled to a future date. You know, if we think that there's a lot more questions to be asked or something, you know.
Are you making that motion to?
No, I'm just throwing, you were asking about a third option, I was just throwing that out there, if somebody felt that way, you know. I don't think there's any more information to be had, for no reason for us to push it off to the future.
Is there a motion for an action for this project?
Charlie's got his finger on it.
Well, I just want to say one thing, especially for you guys. I hope you understand that my point is not a criticism of these structures, because I think they're needed. Having participated in the idea that you need a place to park emergency vehicles and so on, I think that, and if you're going to do that, you need this size of structure. But I still maintain that it's not something that should be before the Historic Preservation Commission, because I don't think we don't have any guidelines. It's difficult for me to make a decision about something as to how it characterizes or doesn't characterize, or how it influences the historic district when we don't have any guidelines, and we constantly get this same problem. So let's write some guidelines, and then we can make a decision. So, but anyway, I think I've done a good job. I think they're going to be useful and beneficial and so on. So my complaint, if that's what it is, isn't with the structures, it's with the process, okay?
Is there a motion to approve or deny?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second? Or
Just as a point of order, since we do it for all the other commissions, if you could read the language, because you need to indicate findings. So there is language in the red box.
It's in that red box.
page 10?
Yeah, page 10.
I got it right here if you want me to read it. I'll make the motion to approve the certificate of appropriateness for replacement carports at 401 California Avenue based on the findings that the proposed work complies with the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation and the city's adopted design guidelines are not applicable to this proposed work. Don't need a second.
And I'll second that.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Is that a
Then you
abstain?
Blair, after that, you would say, any opposed?
Any
Say-
opposed?
I'm not opposed, I'm abstaining.
No, I'm sorry, abstention is not an option under Robert's rules. You,
An option, because I'm not going to vote on this.
no, I apologize, but abstention is only possible when you've got a conflict of interest financially with regard to a proposal.
And I just won't vote.
I'm sorry that you need to vote. It is,
I'm going to vote, Susan.
I'm sorry, we may have to put a pause on the meeting to bring the city clerk in.
Susan, we'll put it down as abstain, and it is what it is, and so we'll just move forward. We have,
You got a quorum, you got 3 people.
Yeah.
No, that's true, but we will have the city clerk contact you afterwards to go over the rules of procedure.
yes.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all right.
So does motion pass?
Yes, you
Yes.
had 3 yeas.
Because we have a quorum? Thank you. Moving on to, thank you, guys.
Oh, thank you, guys, yeah.
Thank you.
Item number 3, for possible action, discussion regarding activities for Historic Preservation Day and selection of property for the award for 2023.
Okay, for Historic Preservation Day first, what's attached is the latest task list and the latest schedule. And I need to know if there are changes to anything there, especially the schedule, because we need to get the schedule online.
You're talking about the schedule located on page 43.
Correct.
I have a couple of questions for the commission, I guess, because I need to get an estimate. I know we did this before, but I don't know. I want to make sure there were no changes in the number of tables we need. So I assume that these that we have listed are still valid. And I wanted to make sure that, well, the chairs, they asked me the other day how many chairs. I suggested 75, but if anybody has an opinion about that, I'm trying to think back to, Ray, yeah, how many chairs do you have set up for that?
Well, about 60 usually.
Yeah, so I was 75? Is that a reasonable number? I don't know.
I would think that should be more than adequate, you know, that early in the morning for
Okay,
people showing
so-
up for a short, you know, presentation.
Okay, so I'll tell them 75 chairs, and, yeah, I'll be tickled if we get 75 people. I think that'd be great. So those were the only two items that I had, that I wanted confirmation about, because they are on board, and they actually have their monthly meeting just 2 days before our event. So I will be able to lock down anything that they need to do, which is set up the tables and the chairs and so on. But we, the commission, somebody is providing the donuts and the coffee, right?
I've arranged for the coffee to be delivered
Okay.
that morning, but someone else is handling donuts,
The
as far as I know.
donuts or whatever. Was that you, Michael, or were you gonna do that, or?
I'm the donut guy.
Okay, so that is taken care of, so I don't, yeah, all right, so that's it. I'm still a little vague on how many, poster,
Easels,
easels, that's what I'm trying to say we need, but, I think we had talked, I think the museum has 3 easels. And I don't know how many we're gonna have at the railroad. Or do we need, well, the other events I don't know about, but I'm gonna say that 3 easels is enough.
well, how many posters did we end up having?
Well, see,
Planning on getting
that's what I
made.
don't know. I don't know.
So I'm still working on the posters, and I think we were going to do a poster at the Busy Bee.
Right, we're gonna do a poster at the Busy Bee, that's correct.
And these are easels that would be supplied by the city, is that correct?
That's my understanding.
Right,
yeah.
okay.
So,
We would supply them, but one of you needs to be able to
pick 'em.
pick them up and then return them.
And that's no problem, so I'll pick up at least one easel that we use at the Busy Bee thing.
So there's supposed to be an easel at the water plant, or a poster and an easel, too? Okay.
But if there's the two posters that we've used them twice now.
I'm only recalling one.
Yeah, there was 2.
I think there's one poster, and then I was
Oh,
going to
the other
do
one,
another one.
one is now the plaque, the infamous, is on the wall
Yeah.
at the plant, so it is just the one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so just that one. And then we have photographs and stuff that we display inside. But yeah,
And
just the one easel.
do you need a table to display the photos on? What do you
No,
normally?
we put them around in the
You
building.
just tape them up or something?
Yeah, we
Okay.
just prop them up or tip a little bit of tape, mounting tape here and there. Clean removal tape.
So
Yeah,
that's 2
so that's all we
easels.
need.
And then an easel for the Safety First Building poster. Did I get that right? Supplied by the city easels.
And again, once you get the posters ready, then we'll work all that out.
No problem.
Yeah. And were you going to be preparing a poster for the Railroad Museum?
It's on my list, but I don't know if I have the bandwidth to do it.
Okay, well, because,
But if I do, would there be a 4th easel available?
well, yes, we have plenty of easels available.
Okay.
Off the top of my head, at the Railroad Museum, what we typically do is put the schedule on a
That's right, I
poster.
forgot about that. Mhm.
So, and they have 3 easels, so there'd be the schedule. And there's probably no, I haven't been in their maintenance building. I mean, for instance, at LA Water and Power, we'd have a poster in the lobby that would direct people to the auditorium, because otherwise you might not know where to go. But in the Railroad Museum, is it gonna be obvious where the public will go?
It will be obvious, yeah, because they empty their, well, not completely, but there's a big area. When you open the big door, right there in the front, the big garage type door, there's a huge area there that, so with the chairs set up, it'll be obvious. And of my understand from what they're telling me, that they will provide little, people can walk around and see what the equipment is and so on, it's available, so. But yeah, I don't think we need to direct traffic, or they will direct traffic if it's necessary.
Is there gonna be kind of sign on Yucca for people to go to the
Well,
left and not
right,
to the right?
and I will
and-
talk to them about that, yeah.
That's be my only concern, is people go up Yucca, they see all the stuff on the right, and
Yeah,
don't realize that it's the events on the left.
yeah.
Oh. I got one other little quick question. I see we got these, nice little maps. I assume these are what we're gonna be handing out to our visitors and guests and stuff?
I'll get to that in just a moment, but what I wanted to clarify is, Charlie, did you say you were gonna have one of the friends out at the parking lot directing people to?
I'm gonna ask them to do that, right, and if they don't, it might be Charlie standing out there. Because I do think somebody needs to be there, because really, the only parking is the platform parking for the main railroad, and that's what people think of. But
Right.
they need to go across the street and down to the maintenance building, so I suppose the other thing we could do is we could put an easel there with a big arrow on it and say,
The concern would be wind. I mean,
Wind,
you'd have to prop
well,
it up on a
exactly,
chair and it'd most likely be blown over.
so I'm going to ask them if they can have someone directing traffic. And the other thing, by the way, and I don't know whether we mentioned it in here, but I did talk to them about providing, golf cart transportation from the maintenance building back up to the platform where most of the presentation will be made by Dr. McMahon. And they said they would do that. They have several golf cart, with multiple seats in them, and they would transport, anybody that needs it, elderly or whatever, so.
That's great.
Before we move on to discussion of the maps, I just needed to know, were there any changes to the schedule?
Yes.
Okay.
Where it refers to the vote for your favorite artwork at the Historic Art Contest, and then it goes on to say entries for this year's Historic Art Contest theme is Boulder City's Historic Railroad. So I was just going to suggest that we get rid of entries for and just start that sentence with this year's Historic Art
Oh,
Contest
okay.
theme, blah, blah, blah.
Okay. Anything else?
Nothing else from me.
Well, yeah, actually, I forgot to double check this, because we talked about this, because Dr. McMahon is the only one that, he's told me that he's the only.
schedule.
Well, I'm talking about the events, and there's a wording in here about who's gonna speak and so on, and it's just Dr. McMahon, yeah. Yeah. So that should be fine. At a Southern Railroad, yeah, and posters. Yep.
Okay, in that case, if there's no further changes to the schedule, what you've got before you are a couple of draft maps, and obviously one's going to go on the back of the schedule. And Blair had provided some information, which I passed on to our GIS person, and so she did the best she could. But if you also have your phones with you, you can also shoot the QR code and see how it looks on your phone, because you may or may not want as much information regarding the historic rail lines, because that was something Blair wanted on the map, but as you can see, there's one map that would clearly, we'd have to use for the event because it shows everything that would be readable, and that's this one with the separate box in the corner for where people would park on Monday for the hike. But that map is, you know, at least you could see the icons for the locations at the railroad and Busy Bee and Safety First Building and the filtration plant. And then the map points, you know, off to a distance for where people would park for the NPS hike the following Monday. But the only issue with this map is when she was overlaying the railroad, historic railroad information, you'll see in the legend at the bottom, oh, actually, this did not, unless she changed it. There was an earlier draft which was showing the blue line, which only appears on the other map, but it looks like this version that is just referring to the red and green lines. But the other map where she tried to put more of the information that was found on a photograph of another map that apparently the Rail Museum had, which I could not find when I was on site. But obviously we can't use that map for the main map because all of the icons for the stuff in town really can't be read. My thoughts were perhaps that the map for the event should be the event map. And I'm not sure if do you want the red and green lines for the historic railway on that map, or should there just be a separate map the purpose of which is to show the historic rail lines, but not try to do the event location because you really can't see those icons on that map anyway? I mean, and if that's the case, the second map for the historic rail lines would just be a separate handout that you could provide to people. And then what she did for the QR version, which you can see on your phones, is it has everything there, including the historic rail line info. But you really, a concern was that perhaps if users aren't familiar with using maps on their phone and zooming in and zooming out, that they might get confused by the red lines and wondering, you know, wondering what they are or what they're for, because you really have to zoom in quite close, and the text which describes those rail lines is quite small. Now, if you actually tap on the rail line, then it brings up, you know, the little note that's a historic rail line. But reading the name for it is almost impossible at the scale that you can see on your phone.
I did, but it says something's offline. It says
I think I don't know what you want to call this, map number 1 or 2, the close-up map is more appropriate for the event.
Correct.
And if the,
And the question is, and that is what I was saying, we really do need to use this for the event on the back of the schedule. Is it appropriate to have the red and green lines for the historic rail information on that map? Or do you think it'd be more appropriate to have all the historic rail line info on a separate map that doesn't have the event info on it?
My thought would be to just, for the event map, just where people are going to, and then any railroad historic would be on the second sheet. I think that would eliminate any confusion, especially if we have people from out of town that aren't familiar with Boulder City and they're trying to get to the water treatment plant and they're trying to follow the green line. that might be a little trickier for them, because that's kind of my thoughts. One map for where to go and the other map for the historical information. Keep them separate. That's just my thoughts.
So part of the problem is that it's a solid line, and that kind of implies that it's a vehicle route rather than just a shadow or a trail, or it's not a trail, I know, but if it were a dotted line, it would be less obvious. But if everybody else doesn't want that on this map, then we can just go ahead and create a separate map, which I'm not sure where we would put this. Is it a handout or?
Well, I think I thought we were gonna be like handing something like this out to people that come to the event. We'll have a welcome table, we've got our coffee and donuts, and we can hand them out this flyer if they don't have it, along, and then the second flyer could be the historic map. I mean,
Okay.
we're not gonna have thousands of people there, so I don't think we'll bankrupt the city with a little bit of paper. We're probably under a ream of paper total. And I think, a lot of people like just a piece of paper in their hand, as compared to always having to go to their phone and, all right, I gotta do this, and this, and, oh, okay, hey, now I got a better idea. Then they can Google or Zoom or something like that. So, I mean, that's just,
Okay.
some of my brain works. I don't know. It might be scary to some people, but
Actually, the only thing that I think it might be, somebody might I'm looking at the event map, and somebody might look at that green line and think that's how you get to the filtration plant.
And that's kind of my thought on that. It might confuse, I mean, people who live here, fine, but
Yeah,
if we got people coming
yeah.
in from Henderson or Las Vegas or something, well, I can't
trust me,
find
there's-
that green road.
Right, no, if we go along with Glenn's suggestion, we would take the historic rail line info off of the event location map. And
Oh,
just
okay,
and-
sure, yeah.
And then just have a separate map, which would
Right.
just have the historic rail line information, but not the event icons, because they're too hard to find on that one
Actually, I
anyway.
think
Yeah,
that's probably.
because this be, if you took this out, we just got the railroad lines on here, this be a nice map, almost a souvenir type thing for people that went there, they take it home and they can look at it and plan another day to go wander around, and hey, let's see if I can find these old routes or something, on a hike or something,
Is there a consensus then for rail lines on one map and not on the event map? Okay.
Okay.
In that case, were there any more comments on HP Day for this meeting, or did you want to move on to the award?
I do have a question about the event map. You have an asterisk, and then I see there's an asterisk to the, it's a little confusing that that asterisk applies to the hiker icon. I wonder if you could put the asterisk with the hiker, or the hiker instead of the asterisk, or I don't know.
I guess the way I see it is, because that is off the map, so to speak, the asterisk is basically referring you to a separate map. And then it's pretty clear on that map where where the hiker icon is for, unless it's, perhaps we could have her make the text larger there. Although in the legend, it says Lake Mead National Recreation Area Visitor Center, 10 Lakeshore Road. So as long as people read the legend in addition to that,
Could you add the hiker to the asterisk over here
The upper right.
on the right?
Yeah.
And then
Put
it'll
the-
be clearer, I think.
If you put that hiker icon right next to the arrow up there.
One more hiker.
I'm sorry, you, I'm a
On the
little,
the asterisk on the right side,
Upper
where it says
right.
2,
uh-huh,
if you put the hiker next to that asterisk also, that
Oh.
would make it clearer, I think.
oh, okay,
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, I'm sure she can do that.
And that was my own.
Anything else?
Do you want somebody to come in and pick up these flyers and stuff on the Thursday before, or is that? Does Michael bring those with the donuts, or?
I think I can bring those with the donuts, and I think I can also bring the easels as well, so.
Okay.
let's take care of that all Saturday morning.
Well, for what it's worth, this kind of sounds like I'm gonna be sitting at the railroad, property there, so if you want, I can meet you up there my plan is to get up there about 7:30 or so help with any chair set up, and if the coffee people come, I can be there. If Michael brings the easels, I can help him get those out and kind of be there that was my thought, be there about 7:30, so if somebody comes rolling their cord at 8 to be, and they need a hand or something, I'll be there.
That sounds good to me.
And Charlie, will somebody be there at that time?
I will, yeah, I'll make sure that I think they normally are there about 7 o'clock, but I know Christopher's there. I'm not too sure, he doesn't sleep there, but yes, I'll make sure, Susan.
It starts at
someone's
8, there better be somebody there, at least a half an hour before.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to, second part of this is the Historic Preservation Award.
And you can see from the information in the packet, you have 3 proposals. Thank you, Holly, for being able to zoom in on that because the nominator didn't provide a separate photo. The first nomination is for the historic Boulder Dam Hotel, which, as noted on the event map, is celebrating its 90th anniversary this year. The second request is for the house at 524 Birch Street. And the third request is for the Dam Roast House and Browder Bookstore at 524 Nevada Way. And the staff report notes that the first 2 applications, I believe are both contributing to the district and individually eligible for listing on the National Register of Historic Places, whereas the third property is not. Not that that was a mandatory criteria for the commission to use in its voting.
I can't recall how we did this before. I guess, do we want to go ahead and cast your vote now, or do you want to?
What you would want to do is get feedback from all members if they, as to what their preferences are, and then if there's more than one mentioned, then we can discuss voting procedure.
Well, if I might, I would just like to say that I appreciate the work that's gone into maintaining and improving the home on 542 Birch Street, and I think that I like the idea of rewarding these property owners in the historic district for the upkeep and the investments that they make in retaining the historic features, etc. So I'd just like to say that was going to be my choice. So let the others chime in.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Susan or whoever did this. This spreadsheet you put together with the past is great. I wish we'd had that in the past. So whoever did that, Susan, it's a beautiful job. And it's really helpful.
I did provide that last year.
Yeah, well, exactly. But I like the highlighting this year because you got the So anyway, we got the yes, yeses, and yeses. So my personal favorite is the Boulder Dam Hotel. This is their 90th anniversary. They are listed on the National Register of Historic Places. They have done over the past 90 years, they have saved that hotel from, well, at one point, it was probably in line to be demolished. So I recognize that the house on Birch Street is a beautiful home, and but I think the Boulder Dam Hotel is due a nod from the Historic Preservation Commission, congratulating them on maintaining a building that's 90 years old. So my vote, I would nominate or prefer the hotel.
I wanted to thank all the folks who nominated the properties. I think they're all deserving of our support and accolades, but I am preferential to 524 Birch Street. Again, just mimicking what Ray said, they've done a great job of maintaining the historic features and integrity of the property and the landscaping, and it still is contributing to not only that part of the historic district, but Birch Street and but the historic district as a whole.
Well, I kind of agree with going with 524 Birch Street. It's, I like the hotel. It's a beautiful building. I love going there. Whenever we have company in town, we always make sure we take them there and go through the museum. But my thought is that, the hotel's got a lot of people helping with the maintenance of that, of maintaining it over the years, which is a good thing. I'm glad that that's happened. I mean, it's a gorgeous building. But I think my thought is, we got an individual homeowner that's, they're working hard to maintain their own personal home. It looks good, and I kind of lean towards more of to that individual. It's a lot of hard work to maintain a house, whether it be an old house or a new house. There's just a lot of work and time and money involved, and to maintain an old home like that, I'm sure it's quite a project. And I'd like to say thank you to those people with an award.
Excuse me, there should probably be a formal motion.
Okay. Is there a motion, or should I just go ahead and make the motion to go ahead and nominate, where was the address? 524 Birch Street for the 2023 Historic Preservation Award.
Nomination.
Do you have a second? For a second. Yeah.
Don't need a second on nomination.
All those in,
Second it, did you? Oh, you did already?
Don't need a second for a nomination.
It's,
Any other nominations?
yeah, it's
Next
not,
order.
it's not a nomination. You have 3 nominations before you, so you are choosing which property to receive the award.
So we have a motion by Chair Davenport. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, second.
all those in favor of this award to 524 Birch Street, say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay.
Hey,
Thank you.
Motion passes. Right. on to agenda item number 4, update.
Excuse me, Madam Chairman, just as a point, I could bring this up afterwards as well, but I will need to discuss with you the language for the certificate immediately afterwards,
Can you tell me what the deadline is tomorrow?
tomorrow.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you for the reminder. Okay, agenda item number 4, update on implementation of the commission's goals and priorities.
So, Madam Chair, you have the updated goals in front of you, and staff can answer any questions.
Anybody have any comments? Agenda item number 5, discussion and update on the status of properties in the historic district or other potentially eligible properties. Anybody have any comments or questions?
Question regarding the historic water filtration plant. Michael, with regard to the grant, I was just wondering, timeline-wise, I was wondering if there's any chance that there might be any action up there in October. Do you think, like, would it be safe to say yes or no, or maybe?
Well, first, we need to resolve the agreement. And where it stands right now is the city attorney has asked the Attorney General's office several questions. We're waiting to hear back from the AG's office. Once those can be resolved, then we take the agreement to the city council for approval. And then with approval, because we couldn't begin work until after that agreement is signed by both the city and the state, then Public Works would have direction to proceed with the bid process to solicit bids for completion of the work. So at this point, if we can get the agreement resolved within the next 2 months, then work would begin this summer and work would be continuing through the fall.
Okay. I was
Yeah.
just curious, is there something we were thinking about doing up there in October, so it's good to know. Thanks, Michael.
Can you elaborate on what the questions are from our city attorney to the Attorney General are?
She had clarifying questions regarding provisions within the agreement.
Can you elaborate on which provisions?
Unfortunately, I don't have that in front of me, so no.
Can that be shared?
Certainly, I can share that with you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay. All right, final item, number 6. Commission discussion regarding potential agenda items for upcoming Historic Preservation Committee meetings.
I don't have anything to add.
All right. All right, then. Now is the final comment period for the evening. Each person has up to 5 minutes to speak on any topic. The public may call 702-589-9629 to provide comment.
Weeks off.
Seeing that there are no comments, we will close the final comment period. This meeting is adjourned.